Julius Malema, a man whose political ideologies resonate so much with the Pan-African community outside of South Africa, but within South Africa, seen as a threat to the establishment for both whites and many corporate blacks. A man whose leadership style many Africans welcome as needed to transition the continent in what we hope for, yet the vast majority of his own people sees him as a threat to South Africa's internal stability. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Julius Malema, the leader of the economic freedom fighters of South Africa, and the man whose video made it to the White House when Ramaphosa, the president, was being grilled by Trump. He is what he is, and that's hard for some people to accept. He was recently denied a UK visa in May 2025, which prevented him from speaking at Cambridge University event. Despite applying early and paying for priority processing, he got denied just hours before boarding flight at OR Tambo Airport in Johannesburg. The British High Commissioner, Anthony Phillipson, offered a formal apology, attributing the delay to necessary visa procedures and timing of national holidays in the UK. Could it be a deliberate attempt to deny him from speaking on his side of the story to the student body about his infamous "kill the Boers" statement of Cambridge University and to the world in general, ladies and gentlemen? Most likely, but that's neither here nor there, because his voice can still be heard loud and clear from right there in his home country. Is he ever going to be the face of South Africa? Will Julius Malema ever become the president of South Africa, ladies and gentlemen? This is a question many Pan-Africanists actually says yes to, but rejected by the majority of South African voters. I am going to be brutally objective in my analysis of his chances to ever becoming the president and leader of this great country, South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Cyrus from Ghana, and this is Tuntum Network. Be sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell for more of my videos. Please hear my take on this, and let's hear from you in the comments. Let's go. You see, Malema is the EFF, and the EFF is Malema. This means Malema stands for everything the political party he founded stands for. And this is where the political elites and corporate South Africa and many South African voters disagree with him. And that is expected. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know everything the EFF actually stands for as a political party in South Africa? Let me help you, ladies and gentlemen, with the key ones. These are the stance of the economic freedom fighters in South Africa. Number one, they stand for expropriation of South African lands without compensation to the white farmers. This means the EFF, when given power to rule South Africa, will take back all the lands the white South Africans control or own without giving them a single compensation. The EFF also stands for nationalization of banks, energy generation, mining companies, and telecommunication networks. Again, when given power, they will turn the mining companies in South Africa, plus the major banks and the energy sector and the telecommunication networks into a state-owned company, ladies and gentlemen. The EFF also stands for 100% free quality education and healthcare and affordable housing system across board. They stand for pan-Africanism, and so they stand for a united Africa with open borders where there will be no need for visas to travel across the continent. And in addition to all of that, ladies and gentlemen, they also stand for the LGBTQ plus community, where men can marry men and women can marry women. Yes, they do. And so these are their stance, and I know at this point your opinion on him and the EFF is kind of shaky. Don't be worried. It's similar to mine. I must say, I completely agree with his stance on nationalizing the banks and the energy sector and telecommunication and mining companies in South Africa. I totally agree with his Pan-African stance that this great continent needs to be united with open borders, but I believe there must still be the individual country's sovereignties, meaning we shouldn't require visas to move around in Africa. I agree with him on that totally. And we should also have a single currency and an army, but we should also maintain the countries as they are with their individual countries' heads of state. That is my personal opinion. This is something I hold core to my beliefs. But two stance of Malema and the EFF makes it difficult for the vast majority of South Africans to totally commit their support to him. The first one has to do with the idea of open borders without need for visas. The vast majority of South Africans are of the view that if that should happen in Africa, all of Africa will migrate to their country. They hold this view, ladies and gentlemen, that most black Africans will just abandon their home country and move to South Africa. Is that even possible, ladies and gentlemen? But strangely, that's a viewpoint of the majority of South African voters. And no matter how loud they say it, Malema and the EFF seems unbothered about this stance. Let me hear from your opinion on this in the comments. Now, the second standpoint, which makes it confusing for many pan-Africanists to support Malema, has to do with his stance with the LGBTQ plus community. Most pan-Africanists insist this is foreign and anti-African culture. Many are disgusted and disappointed in him for embracing it. But Malema, in response, insists in the time of apartheid in South Africa, both straight and gay men and women fought for their freedom and hence cannot abandon that community. Ladies and gentlemen, let's again hear from your opinion on this matter, and remember to keep it civil in the comment section. And by the way, for those who comment that I delete certain comments, please get it corrected. I never delete any comment, not even the hashes against myself. It is the algorithm that does it, not me. So let's get that out of the way. And now, when it comes to taking the idle lands from the whites to the state without compensation, many Pan-Africanists and South Africans are in full support of it, except the part where others fear it might turn South Africa into Zimbabwe 2.0. Now, let me break this part down slowly. When you nationalize the banks and nationalize the mining companies and nationalize the farms in South Africa, you have literally taken the whites out of their game. You would have totally taken the economy from the hands of the white minority South Africans into the hands of the state. That's what will happen should the EFF become the government in South Africa. That sounds awesome, ladies and gentlemen. But the question will be, will the black South Africans be able to manage this infrastructure? Can the black South Africans be diligent and disciplined in the management of their national assets with minimal involvement from the whites, ladies and gentlemen? In fact, have they been successful in the management of the country since they took control of the presidential office? Let's ask ourselves these questions and be honest with our answers. Let's hear from you in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen. South Africa runs a parliamentary government system where the people don't vote directly to elect a president, but instead they vote to elect members of the National Assembly, which is the same as members of parliament. And the party with the majority of members in the National Assembly elects a president. The EFF, before last year's election, had 44 seats in the National Assembly and were expected to double their number. But the new Jacob Zuma party came along, and now they rather lost 5 seats, taking them down to 39 seats. On top of that, the very right-hand man of Julius Malema, whom he started the party EFF with, just left him. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi resigned January this year. Dali Mpofu left in 2019. And Floyd Shivambu, his right-hand man, his partner in crime, left last year after the national elections, ladies and gentlemen. They left to join Zuma's Nkomto Wesizwe party. The EFF, since last year's elections, isn't doing well. What could be the problem with the EFF, and will they make amends? Is Julius Malema difficult to deal with? Or are the defectors doing that out of greed? Will the number of the EFF in the National Assembly improve or decline further? Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from you in the comments section. Now, the question is, in sight of all that's happening around South Africa, in terms of the union government that's now formed, does the EFF stand a chance of winning power on their own? Remember, last year they had a golden opportunity of being a part of the ruling united or unity government when the ANC couldn't secure the majority seats to form a government. That was a golden opportunity last year. They could have been in office alongside the ANC right now this year if the party had agreed to work with them. But Julius Malema was totally opposed to it, and that's why many of his people are defecting. Having lost this great opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, what's next for the EFF moving forward? If I were Floyd, I'm sure I'll be so pissed, because I believe there are many ways of effecting change. It doesn't have to come strictly from your playbook. It's better to make adjustments to be a part of the change than be throwing stones from outside. Ladies and gentlemen, you fought all these years to lead, and when the opportunity came, you fumbled it. Malema, that is my personal problem with you. Having said all that, ladies and gentlemen, I personally see the EFF disintegrating further. I wouldn't be surprised to see parties come out of the EFF. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't see the EFF and Malema ruling South Africa anytime soon without a coalition. There must be some coalition in order for that to happen. And my suggestion to Comrade Malema is to not waste the time and opportunities of the people who have fervently followed him all the way from 2012. I wish him all the best. Remember to subscribe and click on the bell for more of my videos. I'll come back with another one very soon. Until then, God bless South Africa. God bless Africa. It's bye-bye for now.